In this video, we'll discuss types of goods, private goods, artificially scarce goods, public goods, and common resources, and we'll take a deeper look at public goods in particular. So far, we've been dealing with goods that are rival and excludable. And a good is rival when one person's consumption of that good prevents somebody else from consuming it. So if I buy a candy bar, nobody else can buy and enjoy that candy bar. I'm the only one that can derive benefit from that candy bar if I'm the one that buys it and eats it. A good is excludable when it is possible to keep other people from consuming that good. So I can keep somebody from eating a candy bar by making them pay for it. And that way, if the people who are not willing to pay for a candy bar are excluded from enjoying that candy bar. So when goods are both rival and excludable, we call those private goods. So for instance, candy bars are an example of a private good. When goods are excludable, we can keep people from using them, but non-rival, one person's use does not diminish the amount available for other people, then we have what we call artificially scarce goods, or sometimes they're called club goods. And an example of a club good or an artificially scarce good is something like cable television or Netflix. If I'm watching cable TV, me watching TV doesn't prevent anybody else from watching TV, but the cable TV provider can keep people from watching by, charging a monthly fee for you to have cable TV service and having to, they have to come and hook up your cable service. Goods that are rival but non-excludable, so we can't keep people from consuming them, but one person's usage does diminish the amount available for other people, are things like fish in the ocean, or something like hunting grounds. And we call these goods common resources. The final type of good is what we call a public good, and public goods are non-rival and non-excludable. So we can't keep people from using them, and one person's use does not diminish the amount available for other people. So a good example of a public good would be something like national defense. Additionally, many times roads are public goods because your usage doesn't diminish the amount of road available for other people to drive on, and you can't keep people from using roads. Now, I think roads is a good example to highlight the idea that a good is not one or the other of these different types. They can, a public good could become a common resource or a private good with the right circumstances in place. So, for instance, if we have a toll road, then we're essentially turning a public good into a common resource. We're turning a public good into an artificially scarce good if we add a toll to that road. Because now, while the road is still non-rival, we have just made it excludable. Additionally, when non-toll roads are very congested, actually your usage of the road does prevent other people from using the road. So that road, which is typically a public good, when it's very congested, can actually become a common resource. So now we want to think about how we can find the optimal quantity of a public good that should be provided, and how this is different than figuring out the optimal quantity of a private good. So remember, the efficient level of production is going to occur where the marginal social benefit is equal to the marginal cost. And I haven't distinguished between private costs and social cost here because they're going to be the same. So the key difference with a public good is how we find the marginal social benefit. So for public goods, because everyone can benefit from them, because they are non-rival, one person benefiting from them doesn't keep other people from benefiting from a unit of a public good, then we want to add up the willingness to pay for every person at each quantity. So if we're thinking about adding each individual's willingness to pay at each quantity, or their marginal private benefit at each quantity, then to find the marginal social benefit, now instead of taking the horizontal sum of individual demand curves, we're taking the vertical sum of individual demand curves. So again, this is because of the non-rivalrous nature of public goods. Everyone can benefit from every single unit of a public good that is produced. So now we're taking the vertical sum at each quantity, we're adding up the marginal private benefit for each individual to get the marginal social benefit. So now let's work through a simple example. The following are Joe and Jill's demand schedules for hiring a security guard outside their neighboring businesses at night. So in the first column, we have the quantity in terms of hours of security protection. We have Joe's individual willingness to pay for each hour, Jill's individual willingness to pay for each hour, and what we want to do is find the total willingness to pay. In this case, that is our marginal social benefit. And to find the marginal social benefit, or the total willingness to pay in this market, we can just add Joe's willingness to pay and Jill's willingness to pay to get the total willingness to pay. So that gives us the total benefit to both people in this market for one additional hour of security. So for the first hour, that would be 38. For the second hour, $34. For the third hour, $30. For the fourth hour, $26. For the fifth hour, $22. For the sixth hour, $18. For the seventh hour, $14. And for the 10th hour, the 8th hour, $10. So using this supply schedule for security guards, where we have the quantity supplied of security guards, the number of hours, and the price in dollars per hour. So use the supply and demand schedules to determine the optimal level of security protection in this market. So pause the video and try to find the optimal level of security protection in this market using the supply schedule presented here and the demand schedule on the previous slide. So the first thing to remember here is that the price that induces a security guard to want to provide an additional hour of security is their marginal cost of providing that additional hour of security. So the price here is also equivalent to the marginal cost of the additional hour of security protection. And remember, to find the optimal level of security protection, we want to find where marginal cost is equal to the marginal social benefit. So we can also add an additional column for the marginal social benefit. And just look at the quantity. So at a quantity of 1, what was the marginal social benefit or the total willingness to pay for that first hour of security protection? If we look back at the chart, that was $38. So the first hour of security protection provides an additional $38 of benefit, but only cost $8 to provide, so it is efficient to provide that first hour. Then we can look at the second hour. The second hour gives a benefit of $34 overall. So the total benefit is more than the cost of provision, so it is efficient to provide that second hour. The third hour gives Joe and Jill a benefit of $30. So again, the marginal social benefit is greater than the marginal cost, so it is efficient to provide the third hour of security protection. The fourth hour gives a marginal social benefit of $26. The fifth hour, $22, which is still higher than the marginal cost, so it's efficient to provide that fifth hour. And the sixth hour gives a marginal social benefit of $18, and that is exactly how much it costs to provide that sixth hour of security protection. So the socially optimal quantity of security protection is 6 hours. And so if we want to think about this, if Joe and Jill were considering providing a 7th hour of security protection, well, jointly their willingness to pay would only be $14, but the security guard would require $20. So providing that 7th hour of security protection does not improve well-being. It actually decreases total surplus, so it's inefficient to provide that 7th hour. And same for that 8th hour, where the marginal social benefit is 10.